Cool, so also we want steering to only work while we're on the ground. So for steering, I'll do something very simple, which is using a rotator. And then I want to take a splitter and wire the left stick into it. So left stick is actually camera relative. So if I'm looking this way and I push up, then it wants to move that way. If I'm looking this way and I push up, it wants to look that way. So that's the value coming out of there is the scene space direction going that way or going that way. So I actually just want the left stick local, which is like up, down, left and right on the actual stick. And I can plug that into the splitter. So now I have X and Y. X is left and right and Y is up and down. So we want the X to affect the rotation speed. So if I just unplug that, so while I'm pushing right on the left stick, then it's giving a positive signal and multiplying it by that 180. And then if I push left on the left stick, then it's giving us a negative signal, and it's giving us it's multiplying the negative signal by 180. Oh, it's rotating the wrong direction. So with the grid on, I'm going to move that stalk up. So now it's rotating around like that. So let's see if that works. So it seems to be the wrong way round. So pushing left is rotating it right. So I'll just edit this and make it minus. And now that just flips all of the values that it uses. If I look from behind it. So I'll push left and push right. So that works. So I think we actually want the rotator to be slower. So this is basically the max speed. So you can just make this slower. So let's just actually test this properly. Set this back to possessible. So I can accelerate, I can rotate left, and it starts moving left. The camera's a bit like slow, but yeah, and you get a bit of drift as well. So let's just make this faster, and I'll make this so that it's you can edit the camera settings down here, so I'll make it further away, a bit higher, and tilting down more. Yeah, it's a bit better. This should probably be relative to how fast you're moving the steering. So if I go movement sensor, then it has these axes, and it has the velocity in the x-axis. So if I wire that into, should probably just multiply it by the direction actually. So if I use a calculator, get the x speed multiplied by the direction we're trying to steer, and use that to control the rotator. Something we have to remember to do is set it to local space, so that as this rotates, X is still the forward direction. Oh, I'm adding, that's my fault. Should be multiplying. Cool. So now it's the wrong way again. Oh, that's why. So for some reason that changed to overwrite. So L1 and X cycles through these, and then you go to modulate, and now that's being multiplied, so it does have an effect on the max speed and all that. Oh, so now we need to add the negative again. Yeah, so now I can push left and right. It's a bit too this speed is having too much of an effect. So what I'm going to do, like that, wire it in here. So I'm going to use a signal manipulator in custom remapper mode, and say it will make a difference in like this range, for example, and then it'll output just between 0 and 1. Oh, it can actually go negative, so let's put it like that. Zoom in. So it's going between -1 and +1, but then we can use this to ease out, actually. And we'll just wire that into the multiplication again. So I'm using this to kind of debug exactly what we're getting. So if I try and move right and left, it moves very slightly. Yeah, I think this will do though. And we just increase the maximum speed so you can rotate better. Now one thing it's doing is kind of sliding to the side, which we don't really want to do. Then we have another mover that is purely there, so that's a 0 strength, and we only want to damp it in the side on the Z so that we get more grip on the side, and then we don't want to care about anything else. These are like the different axes of damping. So if it's high on X, then that means it will try to stop it moving so much in X, but we're doing that in Z, which is sideways. So when we're drifting, we get more grip and more control as we're sliding sideways, so it slows us down better. So let's just put that down there. Should be affecting Z. Oh, that should be 100%. Side. Yeah, now we get a lot better handling. So this is kind of handling versus drift. So you could control this with a variable depending on how the user has set up and tuned their car or something. So now, yeah, it kind of has better handling now. Oh yeah, because we are using the speed that is actually moving in through the x-axis, which is that, it gives us positive when we're moving in that direction and negative when we're moving backwards, which means we get reverse steering for free. So if I add in here, I'll just make a ramp. Like that. Put this down here. So now if I push right, it's actually so if I go forwards and push right, it's rotating towards the right. But if I go over here and I'm drifting backwards and I push right, then I'm actually turning left, which is how cars work. Yeah, so we can also put that in there. Just reset that. So if we say it needs a minimum of some value, this is like a minimum value, and if we set this to threshold by pressing X on here, if it's on threshold, then it will be sending this value while it's anything below the top, and then it will be sending this value when it's at the top or greater. So now we can use that to say only be able to rotate, only be able to steer if you're going at least a minimum speed. Thing is, this is plus and minus, so if we first put it through a calculator to set it into absolute value, that means if it's a negative, just turn it into a positive. So now we can do that, do it through that. That's the same as saying, this is effectively the same as saying a calculator, and if the value is 0.17 or greater. But then we can use that to, I guess, power this whole thing. So I'll use a chip, put all of that stuff in it, and then only power that chip so it does something while we're moving in at a certain minimum speed. Oh, it probably shouldn't just rotate by itself, right? So I'll keep this out by itself. If it's not moving fast enough, then we'll power this other one, which will damp to 0. So if we are, so a NOT gate, powers this. But we only want to affect the Y, which is the stalk thing. Like that. Yeah. Should be okay. So you still get the slidey feel, but then when we're stopped, it doesn't like keep rotating. It kind of stops itself, slows itself down a bit. So I think that can go in there again because we don't want it to work unless we're moving. I'd like to thank WoodSense, X-Cantaloupe, Martinity DK, and all of my other supporters for making this tutorial possible. Check out TAPgiles.com to find out how you can support me in helping Dreams creators. Thanks for your consideration, and I'll see you in the next one.